Columbia Crest Winery presents the 1987 Unlimited Hydroplane Series. Today, the Indiana Governor's Cup. Brought to you by Ford. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Household Finance Corporation, America's #1 financial services company. And by U-Haul International. Rent it all at U-Haul Centers. For the past 30 years, the tri-state area of Kentucky, Ohio, and Indiana has opened its doors on Independence Day. This is a land where farmers take great pride in what they grow. Be it a huge plantation or a small garden, this quite simply is the heartland of America. Crossing the Ohio River over the Madison-Milton Bridge, you come upon Madison, Indiana, where Independence Day means several things, among them a 4th of July parade down Main Street and hydroplane racing. You see, this is the only city in America that has its own hydro. Hello, everybody. I'm Don Poyer, and the man who drives that boat that is based here in Madison is Ron Snyder. And you're getting to be quite a celebrity. You were Grand Marshal of the parade on Friday night.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't mean I'm too old.
Only old people are Grand Marshals, is that it?
Well, that's all I've heard of it, except Scooby-Doo was the Grand Marshal down here one year. Maybe they're comparing me with him.
What about this race? You do your testing here, the boat is based here, you're from Ohio, but this is like your second home. It's got to be a special one for you.
Oh, it is, and you know, in the years past since I've been driving a boat, we haven't done worth a darn down here. You know, something always going wrong, and this year we finally got it race ready, we feel, and now we can't get on the river. Everything's happening out here. We may not even get this race over here with today.
We have a bit of a delay because of the level of the river and a little debris coming down, but we'll be going real soon. Another Madison driver and a Madison-based boat is down in the pits with Jim Hendrick right now. Jim?
Well, Don, this boat from Madison, Indiana, has been improving every year, every race. And so far, Todd, 120-plus mile-an-hour qualifying, you're getting it loose.
Yeah, it's starting to get up and fly down these long straightaways. This is the first chance we had to find out what's going on. So we've made several changes to the boat, and we're anxious to get out here and do some boat racing.
All right, now you say flying down the chute, and I did see you fly. You're awful loose. Isn't that dangerous?
Yes, it is. It can get really dangerous. If you don't really watch it, the boat will go ahead and act like an airplane and want to fly over backwards on me.
Well, we've got a lot of action coming. Right now, here's Don Poyer with all the combatants for Heat 1A. Don?
All right, Jim, we've got an 8-boat field. Let's take a look at the lineup for Heat 1A. First of all, Ron Snyder in the host boat, the Hulsett Miss Madison, the only piston engine in this particular heat. Then comes Scott Pierce and the Mr. Pringles. Steve Reynolds and the Cellular One, the U-10, qualifying at just over 135. And finally, the undefeated boat for 1987, the Miss Budweiser, the defending national champion with Jim Kropfeld. So, Jim, there's the rundown for 1A. What have you got in 1B?
Well, Don, for the second week in a row, the Miller American got a big break in the draw. Jerry Hopp drives the Thor Racing Special. Mitch Evans in the Pepsi America's Choice. That boat, of course, is out of Madison, Indiana. Likewise, another hometown boat is Risley's Audio Video, to be driven by Todd Yarling. And the only turbine in the fleet for 1B, the Miller American, driven by Chip Hanauer. So we have competition. I'm excited. The course looks fast, and let's get to work, Don.
Well, Jim, we'd love to. First it was high water, then it was debris, and now the Coast Guard, one of its vessels, is out of position, and we can't race until it is in position. Needless to say, everybody up in the tower is unhappy.
This is a first. The Coast Guard wouldn't let us run because one of the auxiliary boats drifted about a half a mile off the race course. And he wants to get back to get a good seat to see the race.
And that's it.
That's the truth. Now, he just got back. We will start Heat 1A at 2 o'clock. That's a 2-hour delay because he wants to watch 90,000 people. He wants to watch the race.
Can we go racing now?
We're going at 2 o'clock, Don.
Okay. And those 90,000 fans have already been through the tuna fish sandwiches, into the chicken and the chips and the soft drinks. We better go racing real soon. You're looking at the top of the canopy in the Miss Budweiser. Driver Jim Kropfeld is putting up a map which will help him showing landmarks and it'll help him in his starts for the race.
Jim, what you doing?
Well, I have my little map of the race course so I don't get lost. Yeah, big race course here, so we don't know where to go. A lot of fog out there.
Timing?
These are my timing runs. I really didn't get to make any over the weekend, so I was up on top of the truck and I timed Ron and Chip this morning, and I guess I'm going to use their timing runs. I hope they did some good ones.
So he'll rely on his competitors for a start. We'll see if it works. Here's Scott Pierce of the Mr. Pringles, strapping it on, getting ready to go racing. Radio inside his helmet. Steve Reynolds with the cool suit hood on to keep him cool while racing out here in these 90-degree temperatures.
Hey, Jimmy, you're clear to go.
That's Ron Brown, the crew chief of the Miss Budweiser, telling Jim Kropfeld it's time to go racing. So out he goes, and here's Ron Snyder of the wholesome Miss Madison. Looking at the drivers in Heat 1A. First of all, Ron Snyder and the wholesome Miss Madison in the U6. Scott Pierce, again out of Seattle in the Northwest, in the Mr. Pringles, the turbine-powered boat. Steve Reynolds, likewise in the turbine boat. And finally, the defending world champion, Jim Kropfeld, out of Cincinnati, about an hour and a half away. In the national points race, after just 2 races, Miss Budweiser with a commanding lead. Risley's in second place, performing well. The other turbine boats back quite a ways so far. So 4 boats in Heat 1A as they come under the Milton-Madison Bridge. 3 turbine-powered boats and 1 piston-powered boat, that being the wholesome Miss Madison. All the boats behind the gun as it sounds. They're all well behind the starting line, and so now it is a race into the first turn. The Budweiser in lane number 2. Behind its rooster tail is the Saginaw 1 in lane number 1 as Steve Reynolds gets bounced around pretty well. Here is the key. This is where the Miss Budweiser ran away from the field in Evansville, Indiana. Coming out of the first turn and going down the back chute. Saginaw 1 staying with the Budweiser pretty well as they go down those long straightaways here on this 2.5-mile course. Very tight turns, very long straightaways, a lot of waves, a lot of treacherous spots on this course as they go under the bridge and now into the first turn. The Budweiser, which has yet to lose a heat or a race in 1987. Jim Kropfeld coming around the turn in lane number 1. Back a ways now is the Saginaw 1 and Steve Reynolds out of Seattle. Budweiser first place coming down the main straightaway, completing this first lap. Remember, we have only 3 laps in the preliminary heats. 3 laps, but 3 flights of heats, and then a regular 5-lap final. Speed for the Budweiser here in lap number 1, 137.2 miles per hour, the old record for a competition lap here at Madison, 130, and that is right where Steve Reynolds was in the Saginaw 1. That gives you some idea of the speed of this Budweiser. Reynolds ties the all-time mark for a competition lap, and the Budweiser is in first place at 137. Incredible, the speed of this boat. Second place, Saginaw 1 and Steve Reynolds. Third place, the Mr. Pringles and Scotty Pierce in only its second race of 1987, the new turbine Mr. Pringles. There is the perspective shot, the lead for the Budweiser. The rooster tail off the skid fin now as the Bud comes around the apex buoy, heading down the straightaway to complete lap number 2. The Saginaw 1 now better than a rooster tail back as you see the Mr. Pringles going down the back chute under the Milton-Madison Bridge, a traditional sight here in unlimited hydroplane racing. Over 30 years of racing here in this Indiana city. On the border of Kentucky, you see the Kentucky side as you look across the river from where we are. The Budweiser and Jim Kropfeld. Speed on lap number 2, 129.4, just under the old record. He set a new competition lap record on a 2.5-mile course here at Madison on lap number 1 at 137.2 miles per hour. Steve Reynolds tied it, so that gives you some idea of the speeds that these boats are hitting here in the 1987 season. Lap number 3 for Kropfeld and the Budweiser. All the drivers here leery of these long straightaways. You see the turbulence, the choppiness in these turns. The first turn by far the worst, especially if you come out of the turn and go down the back chute. Very tough, but now the Budweiser in control with Reynolds accepting second place here in the first preliminary heat of the day. Jim Kropfeld out of Cincinnati, winner of Heat 1A in the Miss Budweiser. Second place goes to Saginaw 1. 300 points to Steve Reynolds. Third place goes to Scotty Pierce, also out of Seattle in the Mr. Pringles. They just keep getting better every heat and every race. And as I said, this is only their second trip to the races in 1987 with that new power plant. Third place to Mr. Pringles. And in fourth place, Ron Snyder driving the host boat. Colson Miss Madison coming in fourth place. Incidentally, the Miss Budweiser set a new qualifying record here at Madison as well at 141 miles per hour and gets the victory here. Down to the pits with Jim Hendrick.
Little traffic jam getting back in. I can see that the delay has not hurt your competitive edge.
Well, Steve and I had a good start, and I think Ron was in there somewhere. I'm not sure, but going into the first turn, it was pretty tight, and I had just enough on Steve to stay ahead of him, and luckily we pulled away on the first and second lap.
Good start out there, Steven.
Well, I'm still getting used to it. The water's kind of lumpy. Boy, that Budweiser really accelerates hard.
It was interesting because we could hear the Budweiser crew saying accelerate, accelerate, right coming out of that first turn on the lap one.
Yeah. I think that we stayed fairly close to him. Yeah. He had about 5 miles an hour on me going through the corner. Then I felt like kind of a hole on the inside. Yeah. But I think once we straightened out and accelerated, we're fairly even, which
good.
Mr. Lucero's happy, and you see grins there.
I see the teeth. Okay, we'll see you later.
All right, buddy. Thanks.
Along for the ride, or here for the race at least, his daughter Krista. Reynolds enjoying the race. Back in a minute. The Miller American heading out for Heat 1B. And the turbocharged Allison power of the Rizzlies as it heads out onto this 2.5-mile course. And Jerry Hopp out of Seattle. There's Jerry now, driving for Al Thorson, the owner of the U7 Thor Racing. Followed by Mitch Evans, as I said, is the son of Norm Evans, also a driver back in the 50s and 60s. Todd Yarling from just down the road in Hanover, hoping to do well in front of the hometown fans. And Chip Hanauer, headed up on the Miller American team by John Walters. 4 more boats now here in Heat 1B, and with all due respect to the rest of the field, the Miller American getting a great break, the only turbine here in 1B. So Chip Hanauer and the Miller American, all of them safely behind the starting line of the gun, and here we go. There's Mitch Evans in the Pepsi America's Choice. They call it the Miss Pepsi. It's the old Miss Tempest based out of Seattle. The Miller American already all alone going into the first turn, so this should be indeed a cakewalk for the Miller American. Chip Hanauer out of Seattle going down that back chute. It's always very treacherous in that area, but with a lack of traffic right now, Chip getting what he needs, and that's plenty of open water. Second place is Jerry Hopp and the Thor Racing. The fourth place boat is the U-22, the Rizzlies audio video. Todd Yarling out of Hanover, Indiana, just a few miles up the road. They want to compete so well here in front of their hometown fans, but there's something wrong with the engine, and that is a shame because they ran so well in Miami and in Evansville, Indiana last week. Here comes the Miller American coming around the second turn to complete lap number 1 under the Madison-Milton Bridge. His speed's considerably slower than that of the Sailor 1 and the Budweiser, but again, he is not being pushed. 123.7 miles per hour on lap number 1 for Chip Hanauer and the Miller American, which is getting better and better every race as well. Second place is Thor Racing with Jerry Hopp, and would be 300 points for him if he can complete 2 more laps. Down the back chute, the Miller American. Chip, who spent the wintertime making several appearances for the Miller Brewing Company, went scuba diving in the Caribbean, also went snow skiing up in Whistler in British Columbia. That's his favorite spot. Look at some of the traffic now as he gets into some of the wakes cutting behind the Rizzlies, which is having a tough time right now. Looks like a fuel problem possibly. Coming down though, completing lap number 2, the Miller American and Chip Hanauer at a speed of just under 120 miles per hour. Thor Racing, that is an Allison engine, supercharged Allison that Hopp is working on, trying to improve each week. The Miller American, the boat designed, of course, by Jim Lucero. Here's Todd Yarling in that Steinecker boat. You can hear the engine surging. It does sound like a fuel problem of some sort, which is a crying shame because, as I said, they got a second place in Miami. There's some of the crew. Ivania, which is Todd's sister, and an extremely good crewman, by the way. And they are not happy with what they see, of course. Miller American on lap number 3 on this 3-lap preliminary heat. Jerry Hopp likewise. sounding all that healthy either. But like I said, it's the luck of the draw. Miller American got this same break down in Evansville in their first heat when it was the only turbine in Heat 1B. Likewise this week, chance to pick up 400 points and save wear and tear on the turbine. The Miller American in first place. Mitch Evans in third place in the Miss Pepsi out of Lake Chelan. Runs a marina down there in central Washington on Lake Chelan. Todd Yarling really laboring now with the Risley audio video, trying to somehow complete this heat and pick up the points. Chip Hanauer lapping the field in the Miller American, which comes as no surprise. Hanauer, the national champion in the Miller American back in 1985. Then Jim Kropfeld in the Budweiser won it last year. And these two have been exchanging speed records, course records for the last couple of years, back and forth. But on this heat, 1B, it is all Miller American, and 400 points go to Chip Hanauer in this first preliminary heat for the Miller. So the Miller American, which was a winner here last year, picks up 400 points. Then Thor Racing, Pepsi, America's Choice, the Risleys, failing to finish. Down to the pits.
Chip, how about the water conditions out there? And that number 2 corner looked like it was kind of rough for you.
Well, I don't think the water's so bad. I don't think we've got a very good setup here. We just can't seem to get the boat to handle.
Well, now you've had that problem in the past, but you've already corrected it. Now you had some pretty top qualifying speeds. What happens when you go into competition?
Well, that's just the point. You know, it's one thing to qualify, and we knew when we did a fast qualifying lap yesterday that I really couldn't do that in a race. I was really hanging it out, so I don't know. We know what we need to do to the boat. We just don't have time, and we'll make those changes before Detroit. Just have to kind of limp through today, I guess.
And everyone knows the water doesn't get any better on the Detroit River. We'll return to Madison after this. This is the Continental High Performance Corner. A closer look at the fastest race boats in the world.
The search is never ending for increased power and unlimited hydroplane racing as the boats search for more and more power in different ways to attain their goals. Now, the turbine engine, like the Miller American, the Budweiser, also the cellular one, we know what a turbine is. But do you know what a turbocharged engine is? Well, in most, it's been iffy in unlimited hydroplane racing until Holset joined the Miss Madison team. They've been very successful with turbocharged automobiles and car racing, and now they're proving it on the oval tracks of the Unlimiteds today. Now let's meet Charlie Grooms, the crew chief of the Holset Miss Madison. And Charlie, this is a cutaway version of your turbocharger, right?
That's right, Jim.
Now, exactly how does it work? What is the main principle?
The principle, Jim, is that more air and more fuel, the more that you can get to the motor makes more horsepower. And what we've done with the help of Holset and their engineers is they've developed the turbocharger. What we've done is just adapt it to our engine to get more fuel and more air to make more horsepower.
So in essence, what you're saying is you're burning your own exhaust and increasing horsepower that way.
Yeah, Jim, what we're doing, instead of letting the exhaust just completely go out into the air, I'm taking it and recapturing it here inside this exhaust side of the turbocharger. That in turn spins this blade here. On the opposite side of that, I have an intake side of the turbocharger that sucks air in, fresh air from the outside. What I do with that, this blade spins, sucks the air in, and I ram that into the manifold over top of the fuel, and a combination thereof increases horsepower.
Thank you, Charlie. Let's go racing.
Thanks, Jim.
Welcome back to Madison. I want to interrupt for just a moment. These two have been working together for a long time, since last winter. I don't want to say teacher and pupil. That's not correct because you've driven a long time, but the two of you have worked very closely this year. You went to driving school, things like that. How's your relationship going? Steve first.
Well, I can't tell you how comfortable I am with it. I mean, and Jim is making me think. He's making me realize things that I never approached before. I think it's just a very practical approach, really. And our basic format is to what did we do wrong? Where can we improve? How can we improve? He's a good teacher.
Jim?
I don't know if you could call me a teacher or not, but I really enjoy working with Steve because he pays attention. You know, a lot of people, a lot of drivers especially, will let their ego get in the way of listening to a crew chief basically analyze what they're doing out on the race course. But Steve and I have developed, I think, a really good relationship, and where we can communicate well. I can sometimes see some things from the shore that he can't necessarily see what's going on in the race boat, because so many things are happening to him so fast, and vice versa. He can help me with the race boat and things that I can't really tell from the shore, and I really like the communication.
In other words, the communication is vital, and you've got it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely essential.
Something equally essential is a healthy engine, and the Risley's team is doing something about that. As you see, they are taking out another engine and putting in a new turbocharged Allison engine. They went to fuel injection just this year after examining the entire operation and decided that was the direction to go, but they're a little frustrated today. Todd, you've had a break in terms of getting into 2B instead of 2A. Time to make the engine change?
Oh, yeah, we'll have plenty of time for that. It's a typical hometown race. If anything can go wrong, it will, and it has.
Now, it's got to be frustrating because this is it. This is homecoming.
Yeah, it is. We were really up for this race, really looking to do good, and qualified nice and fast, and we'll get it together here.
In a nutshell, what was wrong?
I had acted like there were some fuel injection problems. I just was running out of fuel.
So Murphy's Law seems to be striking the Risley camp, but we got a long day ahead of us yet. We'll return in just a moment in Madison, Indiana.
Okay, we'll get it out of there. Get the batteries.
We are back in Madison, Indiana on a very hot, humid day. Nitrous bottles being added to the Thor racing boat for this man, Jerry Hopp, the driver, hopefully to get more speed, more acceleration out of the turns. This man needs all the power he can get too, that being Ron Snyder, and the Budweiser with Jim Kropfeld for 2A. Here we go with E2A. The Budweiser already with 400 points to its credit, way back as Ron Snyder's right on the button for the start of 2A. Ron Snyder, what can you say? The man is known for just that, getting ahead of the field, right at the gun. The Budweiser may be holding back a little bit, we'll see. He's on the outside hip of the Holson Miss Madison. Two Ohio drivers, we've seen this countless times over the past 3 or 4 years. Kropfeld on the outside against Snyder on the inside. Holson Miss Madison in lane 1 and the Budweiser in lane 2. Snyder, who was the Grand Marshal for the parade here at Madison on Friday night. Oh, the boat getting way out of attitude right now in lane number 1, trying to stay with the Budweiser. Snyder with the angle now as they go into this very, very tight turn. Snyder hoping to go wide. He's got about a 7,000-pound boat going against a much, much lighter turbine-powered Miss Budweiser. As you see, Kropfeld able to keep the boat speed and go fast around the corner. And now it's a race of acceleration, really. And let's see if that turbocharged Allison can come up next to the Budweiser. Sure enough, here comes Snyder coming down the main chute, completing lap number 1. Budweiser slightly ahead of the Holson Miss Madison. Third place is the Miss Pepsi with Mitch Evans, but here's your battle for first and second. The conventional boat, the Holson Miss Madison. Proud piece of property for this entire city. And as you see, the Budweiser crew talking to Jim Kropfeld, who now has swung wide and now moved into first place. The Budweiser with a turbine power in lane number 2, now edging away. Well, wait a minute, here comes Snyder again in lane number 1. In that turbocharged Allison, a Holson Miss Madison. We'll take a closer look, by the way, at the turbos later on today. Under the bridge. And again, these two who are very good friends, they love to go at each other, have a lot of fun on the race course, going deck to deck, and you're seeing it again here as the Holson Miss Madison. Snyder trying to hug the buoys, the senior driver on this circuit. And Kropfeld about a year behind him. Ooh, you can see Kropfeld wanting to go in a little tighter, and Ron Snyder saying, not yet. Look at this, the Budweiser going way outside the bridge support, coming down the main chute with Snyder again tiptoeing on those sponsons with the Budweiser in first place after 2 laps. The crowd here, of course, they always support the Miss Madison and the Risley Audio Video owned by Jim Saddam. There's Bernie Little of the Budweiser and, of course, the Holson crew watching the battle go on as now Kropfeld slowly beginning to extend that lead over the Holson Miss Madison. 25 years of experience, Jim Kropfeld, and he is in the lead. Mitch Evans, the second generation in the Evans family racing. His father, Norm Evans, drove back in the 50s and 60s, and now Mitch has followed that tradition. Second place is Ron Snyder after a 7-year courtship. Recently got married and now lives in New Bremen, Ohio. And Kropfeld again. Been voted into the APBA Hall of Champions more than any other driver. Jim Kropfeld, the defending world champion in the Miss Budweiser, coming around the second turn on lap number 3. Taking it easy on his equipment. He knows he has many more challenges before this one is over. He will have a third preliminary heat and then go into the final. In second place is Ron Snyder, accepting second and the 300 points, which should get him into the final. Coming down the main chute and will go under the Milton-Madison Bridge one more time. Jim Kropfeld in first place, the winner of Heat 2A. Second place, Snyder, the Holset Miss Madison. So get out your scorebooks. The Budweiser with a perfect day, 800 for the afternoon. Then the Miss Madison and Miss Pepsi and 4 racing. Now down with Jim Hendrick.
A familiar face and a happy one. As far as the Budweiser racing team, this is August Busch, the 4th of Anheuser-Busch. You have to be ecstatic.
I'm loving every minute of it, Uncle. Fantastic.
You call out,
Way to go, isn't it, Jim?
He calls Bernie little uncle.
That's right. That's since this high.
My favorite uncle, too. I love him.
A happy Budweiser team, Bernie Little, August Busch, the 4th. Don?
Every time you Ohio guys get together, the same thing happens. That was a nice run out there.
Well, it could have been a little nicer, but we still can't get this boat around the corners for some reason. And yeah, with Jimmy and I was going to make a little show out of it, but
Well, the problem being you got long straightaways and really tight turns here.
oh yeah, but shoot, we ought to be able to get around there quicker than what we're doing it.
Meanwhile, class continues at the Cellular One camp. Jim Lucero and Steve Reynolds talking it over. And a bit of time now for the camps to get it together before the next race. Time for our Mercury update.
There was thunder on the river as the first round of the National Inboard Championship Series came to the Tennessee River in Chattanooga. As part of the annual Riverbend Festival, sponsored by Choo Choo Custom Vans, the Formula Mercruiser 5-liter, 7-liter, and K-Racing runabouts thrilled the huge crowds with their exciting competition. 35 teams from 13 states competed in the event on the 1.25-mile oval course. The drivers thrilled the crowd as they passed between the spans of the Oglala Bridge. Their lap speeds averaged over 80 miles an hour, while the boats reached 125 miles an hour on the straightaways. Making their debut as an exhibition event along with the hydroplane and flat-bottom classes were 3 Automotive Thunderboat Association boats. This new American Powerboat Association class called ATA features twin 1,000 cubic inch engines on the same drive shaft. Mark Tate, his boat powered by twin electronic fuel-injected Mercruisers, put on quite a show for the large crowd which lined the Market Street Bridge, overhanging the water. The rooster tail spray almost reached the crowd as he roared around the corners on the turns. The Formula Mercruiser 5-liter title was up for grabs going into Sunday's 2-heat final. But Mark Tate from Wayne, Michigan pulled out the win on time in his chopper boat, beating out James Pancoast in Making Waves and Mark Burgart in X-Ray. Mark Tate describes the final heat.
Last heat was a real dogfight. I started on the outside, like I said, that I wanted to be, and got down the first turn, got pushed real wide, and I think I come out of the first turn about 5th. Just started moving my way up, diving through Rooster Tails, pretty much running the whole race from Rooster Tails, really not knowing where I was going. We worked our way up to 3rd. We almost got 2nd, but we were 3rd in the final. We had enough points to win overall.
Wheeler Baker of Chester, Maryland won all 4 heats in the 7-liter Formula Mercruiser class and coasted to victory in his division, racking up a perfect score of 1,600 points in 4 wins. After cruising to victories on Saturday, Baker, powered by his Ford-based Mercruiser engine, had trouble edging Chuck Woodruff in Sunday's first heat. Baker trailed most of the race before catching Woodruff on the last lap of the 4-lap final. He changed the boat setup for the second final while leading most of the race.
I told you we were going to change the boat. We changed the wings. We changed the prop. They brought it right to life, just like put another supercharger on. It was all the difference in the world.
In the K-Racing runabout class, Duff Daly won the overall title. Daly of Miami won both final heats on Sunday. He led throughout for an easy victory in the first heat and took the lead on the 3rd lap of the second heat for the win. Daly describes his strategy in that final heat.
I had more horsepower, but I'm sure he did too. It was just a matter of all the water conditions, whether or not he could use it. And he just happened to slow up at a time where I could accelerate. And I got next to him and I said, to hell with it, I'm going to go for it. So I did.
Join us from Burley, Idaho for the second round of the National Inboard Championship Tour. From Choo Choo Customs, Thunder on the River, this is Steve Michael reporting.
Over 90,000 fans, over 90 degrees here in Madison, Indiana. We'll be back. Welcome back to Madison and the Indiana Governor's Cup. This, if you didn't know, if you're a hydroplane fan, you may know it, that this is Muncie Racing Industries' 100th race. Fran Muncie, I would imagine you felt a little different when you got up this morning for this race.
Yes, it would be wonderful to win this. This is a great milestone. Also, if we could win this race, it would be our 50th win. So just lots of round numbers today, but so we're going to try real hard.
49 and 99. Of course, your late husband, Bill Muncie, was a hero in this city as well.
Yes, I think he won this race more than anyone else. But, of course, he raced here more than anyone else.
Okay. And I know right now the working relationship you have with Chip is one of the best you've ever dealt with.
It is. He's one of the finest persons I've ever known. We have a great team, and
you'll do all right.
Yes, we're very hopeful
okay.
For this weekend.
Well, I hope you're here for another 100.
Thank you.
The Miller American is in Heat 2B. Out it goes with Chip Henauer from Seattle, Washington as the driver, and as we've said, defending national champion from back in 1985. The Cellular One will also be meeting fellow Turbine, the Miller American, here in 2B. And the Rizzlies with Todd Yarling with a new engine. 3 turbine engines against a piston engine in this, the second heat of the second flight. We'll have 2 more preliminary heats and then the final here in Madison, Indiana. The Cellular One, the Rizzlies, Mr. Pringles and Miller American as they come down for the start under the Madison-Milton Bridge. Better than 100,000 fans here, either on boats or on the shore. There's the gun. All the boats are safe. Cellular One with a great start. Coming into the main straightaway, down into the first turn. In the lead is the Cellular One. In second place is the Miller American, but Chip Henauer with good positioning on the inside. Let's see how they shake it down now as they come out of the first turn and down that tough area there. Just coming out of the turn and into the straightaway. Cellular One, it appears in first place. Mr. Pringle's going dead in the water, but Scotty Pierce kept it alive. And now you see the Cellular One beginning to run away from the field. Steve Reynolds hoping to get his first heat victory here in Madison. Second place, the Miller American, as they accelerate down the back chute, hitting speeds of up to 170, 180. That's about where Reynolds is right now as he goes under the bridge and sets up for that second turn. This turn a little bit better than that first one, not quite as bumpy as he comes around hugging the buoys, the skid fin digging it in, and he'll come down to complete lap number 1. Reynolds in the Cellular One in first place. Better than a rooster tail lead now for the Miller American. Check that for the Cellular One as Miller is in second place. Chip Henauer, the Miller American. That boat getting better as well, and the Rizzlies running much better than in the earlier heat when they were having fuel starvation problems. And the Mr. Pringles is going again. Scotty Pierce, as we said, in his second race of 87 behind a turbine engine, or in front in this case. Steve Woomer, the owner of the Cellular One. Fran Muncie in the lower right, the owner of the Miller American. And Muncie Racing. After lap number 2, let's get a speed on Reynolds now. He's slowed down a little bit, 123.9 miles per hour on his second lap as he rumbles into that first turn. Todd Yarling and the Rizzlies sounding much, much better. That turbocharged, fuel-injected Allison engine. The engine that won World War II, as Jack Schaefer Jr. puts it. Reynolds down the back chute. Henauer down the back chute in the Miller American. Incredibly long straightaways here at Madison down the narrow Ohio River. Into that first turn. Here on lap number 3, the Rizzlies with Todd Yarling. Ooh, getting a little light is Steve Reynolds, as you see, going into the second turn again. This has been a good heat, a good start for Reynolds, good speed. And that boat is getting better all the time as the team manager, Jim Lucero, continues to dial it in, grinding on the skid fin, grinding on propellers, setting up the riding surfaces of that of each sponsor for that matter. And the boat is getting dialed in. It's brand new here in 1987, as is the Budweiser and the Miller American. Fran Muncie getting a better view of the race as she comes up on the actual trailer that houses the boat. as the Miller American and the Sailor One go into the second turn. Check that, the first turn. Boy, that's where it gets turbulent. Look at the boats kick around. Oh, look what happened. The Miller American is not turning. I gotta believe the Chip Hanauer lost his skid fin. He has gone way downriver on his third lap. And now the Sailor One all alone down the back chute, but Hanauer appears to be all right. Strobe light is flashing, meaning that he is fine, but obviously he lost either a rudder or a skid fin. Gotta be a skid fin, because he just quit turning. And here comes the Sailor One now. Reynolds coming down to complete lap number 3 as the winner of Heat 2B. And in second place, Todd Yarling moving up into second to get 300 valuable points in the Risley. Heartbreak for the Miller American, performing well, then losing a skid fin and not getting any points. Let's go down to the pits.
You seem like perhaps you're getting a little more confidence in your boat.
It's a combination, Jim, of Steve getting used to the boat and Jim just doing his magic. You know, it's a little touch here and a little touch there. Every time we go out, it's getting a little faster.
When did you notice that Miller was not in competition? We think perhaps he might have lost a skid fin because he went right out of the race course on the other end.
I think it was maybe on lap 2. When I halfway down the back straightaway, Danny told me on the radio, you got 15 on him. Going into the upper turn, he says you got 30. We just cooled it from that point on.
Scotty, what happened there in the first turn? Did you get a little crowded?
Well, it was plenty crowded. I had the inside, originally on the start, and I think that they thought, because we haven't run all that well up to now, that they were just going to leave us, but they didn't leave us. I stayed right with them all the way to the corner, and I don't think that Chip was aware of it, and he pushed me all the way into the inside of the racetrack, and I was inside the buoy when I got to the turn, and I had to veer hard right, then turn hard left, and I fell into the monster hole. But
boat's okay?
Yeah, everything's fine. I don't think Chip did it intentionally. I just think that he didn't know that I could run with them, because quite frankly, I didn't know I could till then either. So.
Okay.
As we suspected, the skid fin is gone. The bracket is all that remains on the Miller American. John Walters, the crew chief, checking out for damage. You could hear him say it's okay, meaning the structure inside is still there and is solid, so they can put new brackets on and put on a new skid fin. No easy task. They have less than 10 minutes before Heat 3A. They are in Heat 3A, the skid fin ready to go, but they must get the old bracket off first. We'll be back in a moment. Time is running out for the Miller camp. The Mr. Pringles crew and driver Scott Pierce helping them any way they possibly can. Some of the bracket arms to hold the skid fin in place if they can get it up there and get it screwed on in time. The other boats going out for Heat 3A, the Cellular One. Here's Todd Yarling of the Risley Audio Video, the home team, as they go out for their third preliminary race of the day. And the Miller American, they've got the skid fin in place. If they can get the bolts and the nuts tightened in time, they'll be able to race, and it looks like they're going to be able to make it. The Miller American being hoisted up and into the Ohio River, and a date with the Cellular One and the rest of the field. And that field is very interesting. The Budweiser with the Cellular One and the Miller American and the Risley, 4 of the better boats here in 1987. So here we go with the start of E3A. In lane number 2, it's the Cellular One, the Miller American wisely on the outside. Budweiser in lane number 1. Good position for the Budweiser and Crockfeld as they go into the first turn. Again, Cellular One in first place. On the inside, though, the Budweiser on the outside. It looks like, oh no, Chip's got problems again for that skid fin as he goes way wide. In the meantime, rocking and a-rolling is the Cellular One with Steve Reynolds. He maintains good boat speed this time as he goes down the back chute. Where's the Budweiser? It's a rooster tail back as the Cellular One goes down the back chute. That's the best start yet for Reynolds. He's got a lot of air under the boat. Look out! The Cellular One is flipped. Steve Reynolds and the Cellular One has blown over on the back chute. Somehow the Budweiser was able to get by him and the patrol boats in the meantime. The race obviously has stopped. Flares have been shot out from the start-finish line tower. It appears that the boat is still floating. What is left of it, it appears it is right side up. The divers and the paramedics, the crowd obviously very concerned. The boat sitting right side up. The cockpit appears to be intact. Of course, this is an enclosed cockpit with an F-16 canopy on top to protect Steve Reynolds, the driver, At this stage, certainly no report on his condition. You see the helmet being taken off of Steve. That is it. One of the crew members of the Cellular One holding on to it. The boat is floating. Steve is being brought back in a rescue boat at this time to the ambulance. This is Steve Woomer, the owner of the Cellular One, being consoled by Bernie Little. But Steve is being brought back. Again, we do not know his condition, and he will be taken to a hospital immediately. We'll be right back. Everyone here at Madison still in shock after the accident involving Steve Reynolds in the Cellular One. Let's see if we can get an update on Steve's condition at this point.
Dr. Swanson, what do you know about Steve's condition at this stage?
It's very serious. He was unconscious when we opened the capsule, and he's been unconscious the entire time, but he is breathing on his own, and his vital signs are relatively stable. At the present time, we can tell he had a broken arm, but we can't really be sure of the rest of his injuries. But obviously, by being unconscious, it's serious.
And he's been taken to Indianapolis?
He's being taken by their air ambulance to Indianapolis Trauma Center.
Going down the backstretch, Steve Reynolds had a sizable lead over the Budweiser and Jim Kropfeld. As you know, a brand new boat, still really not dialed in, but Reynolds was pushing. He wanted to win. And the competitiveness inside of him pushed him, and he pushed this boat. As you see, the right sponson goes up, and then that mass of air is caught under the boat, hurls it through the air, ripping off the left sponson, and then impact. The accident itself really goes beyond description, as Jim Kropfeld barely avoids the accident.
Right now we're with Jim Kropfeld of the Miss Budweiser. Of course, Jim went through a flip back in May when the brand new Budweiser was testing. Jim, people at home always wonder what goes through the minds of drivers, obviously, when they see a good friend go over like that.
Well, the only thing I was concerned, first of all, I was concerned with when Steve went over. I saw him going, and I heard on the radio that Steve's going over, and then about that time he reached a peak, and the boat, I was on his inside, back about 200 feet, but as the boat reached its peak, it started falling over in front of me, and I didn't know where to go, so there was a patrol boat to my left. I could see up a couple hundred yards, but we were probably going 160, 170 mile an hour, and I just shot through the infield and circled around. I saw his boat crash down alongside me, and I came back in, but I thought he was upside down because the last time I saw the boat, it was upside down, and Lauren said it on the radio that he's right side up, and he said he thought he saw the canopy come open, so, you just worry about whether he's hurt or not. You don't care about anything else. You're just kind of concerned. That's his second one. I went through one, so I know what's going through his mind. I don't know if he was conscious or not, but if he was, I know what it is.
Well, prayers for Mr. Reynolds right now. I guess that's the only thing we can say.
That's right. We just hope and pray that everything's fine and he comes back in fine shape.
And to make matters worse, the Weather Bureau has just informed us a major thunderstorm is heading our way. Racing is finished here in Madison for this year. We'll be back. Columbia Crest Winery presents the 1987 Unlimited Hydroplane Series. Brought to you by Ford. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Household Finance Corporation, America's #1 financial services company. And by U-Haul International. Rent it all at U-Haul Centers.